The moonless night of the waning lunar phase lay heavy over the mountains. A cold wind swept in from the west, carrying the chill breath of the Jordan River. Across the eastern bank, faint streaks of light flickered in the darkness, Jordanian border outposts. Beyond the river, dim Israeli observation posts glimmered like distant embers. For shadowy figures moved slowly along the treacherous mountain trail. One of them was a tall black man with tightly curled hair, broad lips, and a powerfully built frame. His name was Abu Bakr Sanusi. Beside him walked Abdur Rahman, his weathered face burnt red by years beneath the desert sun, his beard trimmed with care. Both men represented the UMLLA, the United Muslim Liberation League of Africa. The third traveler towered above the others, nearly 6.5 feet tall. He wore a Turkish cap and a short French-cut beard. Sharpness radiated from his narrow eyes. This was Mustafa Amin Chap-3, leader of the Turkestan Freedom Movement, newly arrived from Turkey. The fourth man, guiding them through the darkness, was Abdur Rashid, a member of Saimum. Rashid seemed deeply troubled. After a long silence, he turned toward Chap-3. "Tell me, Mr. Amin, after Hassan Tariq gave you the letter, did he say anything else?" Chap-3 answered quickly, though calmly. "He seemed extremely busy. He handed me the letter and left within 5 minutes. I hesitated to ask questions. At dawn, when I heard from Ali Effendi that he had disappeared, I was stunned. Now I realize we should have paid more attention to his strange anxiety." They continued climbing. Soon, countless lights appeared below them along the slope of the mountain, stretching northward like a glowing river beneath the stars. Rashid pointed toward them. "Look carefully," he said quietly. "Those lights are the testimony of Jewish brutality." His voice darkened. People driven from their homeland, stripped of everything they owned, forced to live like animals in shacks and camps for decades. Millions of displaced Muslims waited 20 years for justice from the United Nations. Hunger, disease, malnutrition, untreated wounds, they've been dying slowly while the world looked away. He stopped walking. Then, with rising intensity, he continued. "But the age of waiting is over. Patience has shattered. We relied on men and governments for too long, and paid the price. No more. We have taken up arms. There are only 2 paths left before us now, martyrdom, or victory." Chap-3 glanced at him thoughtfully. "I had heard the refugee camps lacked organization and education," he said. "How did you become this disciplined? Where did your training come from?" A faint smile touched Rashid's lips. "What you heard is partly true. Not entirely. When the first waves of refugees crossed into Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and Sinai, we had nothing. No shelter but bare earth. No water except what could be pulled from wells. In those dark days, many offered aid. But one group stood beside us like brothers." He paused. "My mother used to say God had sent us the Ansar of Medina." He looked at the others. "Today the whole world knows them, the Muslim Brotherhood. They did more than provide medicine, food, and tents. They divided the refugee camps into organized sectors. In every sector they established schools. But these were not ordinary schools, they secretly trained young men for long-term guerrilla warfare. The Brotherhood organizers acted as teachers and advisors. They used to say, Muslim nations, divided and weakened, could never liberate Palestine through conventional armies. Palestine would only be freed through the underground struggle of fearless young Muslims." Rashid's eyes drifted into memory. Saimum was born from those teachings. For a moment, it seemed the Israeli flag might be torn down from Tel Aviv itself. But then our guiding light was extinguished. Hassan al-Banna was assassinated in the streets of Cairo. Suddenly Chap-3 jabbed him sharply in the arm. Rashid looked ahead. A coded light signal flashed repeatedly from a dark cave in the mountainside. "We've reached the first checkpoint," he whispered. A few yards ahead, 2 armed guards blocked the narrow pass with machine guns raised. Rashid let out a strange whistle. Immediately, a massive guard draped entirely in black cloth stepped forward carrying a metal tray filled with wooden letters. He held the tray before Abu Bakr Sanusi. Sanusi calmly selected the letter W. At once, the guard lowered his revolver, saluted them, and shook each man's hand. The first checkpoint was cleared. Chap-3 frowned. What exactly was that? Rashid laughed softly. You'll find out at checkpoint 3. A shadow crossed Chap-3's face. But Hassan Tariq never told me about any code system. I understand, Rashid replied. I know nothing more than you do. Still, I informed Brother Musa about your arrival. We'll see. Hours later, after brutal climbs and descents through the mountains, they reached the second checkpoint. This time, Abdur Rahman stepped forward and selected the letter A from another tray. At the third checkpoint, however, Mustafa Amin Chap-3 was stopped. The guards detained him and refused passage until new orders arrived from headquarters. Nearly 15 minutes later, a special authorization from Ahmad Musa finally secured his release. 12 miles north of Amman, hidden deep within a narrow mountain valley east of the Jordan River, several concealed chambers carved into the cliffs glowed with light. For miles around, Saimum guerrilla bases and observation posts lay hidden among the mountains. From here, operations were launched across Israel, from Eilat to Gaza, from Haifa to Jerusalem, turning sleeplessness into a permanent condition for the Israeli military. Even soldiers guarding checkpoints at night now felt fear tightening in their chests. Somewhere in the darkness, reckoning was coming. Inside one of the illuminated chambers stood a large circular table surrounded by 10 chairs. 8 were occupied. 2 remained empty. One belonged to Hassan Tariq. The other to Major General Ali Effendi. Hassan Tariq had vanished. Ali Effendi had not yet arrived. Representatives from Africa and Turkey sat among Saimum's leadership while Abdur Rahman read a report sent by UMLLA's Central Council. Though the night was freezing, sweat gathered across his brow. Ahmad Musa sat silently, head lowered, as if lost somewhere far beneath the surface of thought. Abdur Rahman continued reading. Out of Africa's 322 million people, nearly 194 million are Muslim. Christians, including colonial settlers, number only 47 million. Yet despite being minorities in most Muslim-majority African nations, they dominate politics, education, trade, and military power through imperial support. He described discrimination, executions, prisons filled with dissidents, Muslim activists tortured or disappeared in Chad, Ethiopia, Zanzibar, Tanzania. Then came the conclusion. We have learned through suffering that justice cannot be begged from the world. International institutions will not save the oppressed. The only road left is struggle. Our requests are 5. 1. Financial assistance for prolonged liberation warfare. 2. Weapons and military supplies. 3. Modern medical treatment for wounded fighters. 4. Advisors and trainers for education and military preparation. 5. That Saimum assume leadership of liberation movements across the oppressed Muslim world. Silence followed. At last Ahmad Musa lifted his gaze from a detailed map of Africa spread before him. Why, he asked quietly, did you choose the mountains of Libya and Chad as your permanent bases? Would coastal regions not be safer? Abu Bakr Sanusi answered. There are 3 reasons. First, the terrain is nearly inaccessible. Any hostile government would need enormous effort to reach us. The surrounding mountains and desert tribes are our allies. Second, from there we can maintain direct links with Muslim movements across Africa. And third, supply lines. He leaned forward slightly. Through Sudan and the Red Sea, weapons can reach us safely. From the Mediterranean, supplies can move through Cyrenaica and the Libyan desert unnoticed. The Bedouins there still remember Italian colonial brutality. Wells were sealed with concrete to kill entire tribes through thirst. Whole settlements vanished into desert ruin. His voice hardened. And the legacy of the Senussi resistance still lives in those lands. The old men remember. So do the young. For the first time that evening, Ahmad Musa smiled. "Your vision is impressive," he said. "You carry the legacy of the Senussi movement, the fire of Abdul Karim Rif, and the organizational spirit of Hassan al-Banna. Victory may truly be possible for you." Later that night, Musa led the delegates through a maze of hidden tunnels and secret mountain passages. Rope ladders descended from darkness above. Concealed doors slid open. Signals flashed. Finally they entered a vast underground chamber. Waiting there stood two prominent figures, Amin al-Azhari, strategist of the World Muslim Congress, and Abdullah Amr, military advisor to the movement. The visitors were stunned. After brief introductions, they entered another chamber and the doors sealed shut behind them. Darkness swallowed the room. Then Ahmad Musa's voice emerged from the blackness. "What you are about to witness," he said, "is how Saimum intends to destroy the state built from decades of Zionist conspiracy." A giant illuminated map of Israel appeared across the wall. Blue dots began glowing across its surface. Amin al-Azhari spoke calmly. "Those blue points are villages inside Israel. There are exactly 2,399 of them. In every village, we have established a 7-man revolutionary cell." The room fell silent. Most of the members are Palestinian Arabs operating undercover. For 6 years we built this network. Beneath every village lies a hidden cache of weapons. After the 1967 war, we gathered abandoned arms from Sinai and filled the stockpiles. Each cache contains grenades, rifles, pistols, and submachine guns. We distracted Israeli intelligence by launching thousands of border raids while the network expanded internally. Another set of lights appeared across the map. "These," Azhari continued, "are our main supply depots hidden beneath old churches." Then 4 red lights ignited: Eilat, Lod, Tel Aviv, and Haifa. "Israel has missile installations here," he said. "Our first objective in the second phase is to destroy them simultaneously before they can strike. We know Israel possesses nuclear weapons. But they will never be able to use them. Because the attack will come from inside." At that moment, Chap-3 hesitantly pulled out a cigarette. "If you don't mind." "Of course," Ahmad Musa replied smoothly. The lighter sparked. For only a split second. But it was enough. Ahmad Musa saw it immediately, a tiny flash mechanism hidden inside the lighter. A miniature camera. A spy device. His expression never changed. He casually asked for the lighter. Chap-3 hesitated. Too long. Musa understood everything. The real Mustafa Amin Chap-3 was not in this room. The man sitting before them was an imposter. An infiltrator. Likely Mossad. Possibly worse. Musa began speaking lightly, almost playfully, asking questions about football, smoking, wrestling, details from the real Chap-3's background. The fake answered confidently at first. Then came the trap. The real Mustafa Amin Chap-3, Musa said quietly, never played football. The room froze. And he was already one of the greatest wrestlers in Turkey. The man exploded from his chair like a spring. Too late. Musa's revolver was already aimed at his chest. "Take your hand out of your pocket," he ordered calmly. "Surrender, unless you want to die." The impostor smiled coldly. "I don't fear death, Musa." Then he moved. A grenade flashed into his hand. Everyone recoiled in horror. It was no ordinary grenade. One blast could collapse part of the mountain itself. But he never got the chance. Musa fired once. Silently. The spy collapsed across the table, the grenade still clutched in his dead hand. And at that exact moment, the door burst open. Major General Ali Effendi entered the chamber. Beside him stood the real Mustafa Amin Chap-3. What followed was worse than anyone imagined. Ali Effendi explained how Hassan Tariq had been abducted. How an international extremist network known as WRF had cooperated with Mossad. How the fake Chap-3 had undergone precise plastic surgery before infiltration. Someone had known about this meeting in advance. Somewhere, there was a leak. Then Musa spoke of another discovery. Years earlier, Hassan Tariq had uncovered fragments of a mysterious strategic blueprint connected to WRF, a vast hidden operation spanning the Muslim world from Central Asia to Africa and Indonesia. Maps. Codes. Networks. Sleeper cells. No one yet understood the full design. But one thing was becoming terrifyingly clear. A shadow war had already begun. Before anyone could speak again, a red warning signal flashed across the chamber wall. Israeli aircraft. Everyone rushed to the rooftop. Across the Jordan River, the western horizon burned crimson. Bombs had fallen on Arab villages. Somewhere beyond the darkness, civilians were dying. Women. Children. Families asleep moments earlier. No one spoke. The fire reflected in their eyes as they stared across the river. And in every mind rose the same unbearable question. How much longer would this trial by fire continue? And when would the sacrifice finally end?